Okay, so we're going to proceed to hearing in a minute. And the way these cases are going to go, and Mr. Shearling, I'm still waiting for your camera to be activated. There you go. And so you're asking for a harassment order, anti-harassment order against an opposing party. Harassment is defined as follows. It's an unlawful and willful course of conduct directed at a specific person, which seriously alarms, annoys, harasses, or is detrimental to such person and serves no legitimate or lawful purpose. Course of conduct must be such as would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress and must actually cause substantial emotional distress. Course of conduct is defined as a pattern of conduct composed of a series of acts over a period of time, however short, evidencing continuity of purpose. Course of conduct includes any form of communication, contact, or conduct, including the sending of electronic communication, but does not include constitutionally protected free speech. And it's just a long way of saying that not all conflict is harassment. I'll make a determination as to whether the conflict that exists between the parties, such that it is, rises to the level of harassment, or whether an order is appropriate. The way these cases go, I'll swear in the petitioner. I'll hear from the petitioner first. Following that, I'll swear in the respondent. Then I'll hear from the respondent. I may ask some questions of either party. If either of you have any witnesses to call, I'll hear from your witnesses after swearing them in. And following all of that, I'll make a determination one way or the other as to whether or not an order is appropriate. Just a couple of ground rules. Don't try and talk over the other party. You're probably going to hear some things you don't like. You're probably going to hear things you disagree with. And I'll give you a chance to respond to those things, but don't talk over the other party. Don't talk over me. If two people are talking, I typically can't hear either one of them. So with that, Mr. Shearling, am I saying your name correctly?
That is correct.
Could you raise your right hand, please? You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can put your hand down. Hang on just a second. So how is it you need, I've reviewed the things that were filed, both from you and Mr. Rosenstein. Frankly, this seems to be more of a property dispute rather than harassment. So go ahead, Mr. Shearling, I'll hear from you. How is it you need an order against Mr. Rosenstein?
Mr. Rosenstein has he's tried violence, get me to fight him, bullying me, pushing dirt around my area, walking across my property, yelling and screaming obscene names for my daughter. He's really, and I've been on vacation, so I haven't heard much from him since I've gotten back.
Okay, well, you're going to need to be a little bit more specific about, because I've read what he's kind of saying the same thing about you. And so what specifically is the issue out there? It seems to me like the issue is a dispute over who has rights to what property, which can't be decided here. That needs to be decided by a superior court judge. That seems to be the genesis of the conflict.
Yes, it does, Your Honor. I realize that. It's just him sitting out here yelling and screaming when he feels like it, and yelling names and calling my daughter names and everybody else names, and the whole neighborhood hears him. And then he's tried to punch me, kick me in the face, and all sorts of stuff. You should have the little videos of that.
I wasn't able to view the video for whatever reason. I was looking at this and my service wouldn't let me. Let me hear from Mr. Riesenstein. Mr. Riesenstein, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
You can put your hand down. Give me just a second here. Go ahead. What's your response to what you just heard from Mr. Shearling?
Well, we sent you testimony. I'm sure you've read that. So a lot of the information is in there that I would want to say, but I will say that he had a surveyor come out a couple years here later, just after he filed this original order. The surveyors were at his property a couple days later. I don't know what the findings are.
Just in June?
Yes, he had a survey come out finally, but we had a survey done and we had it recorded. So that survey is real. I have never trespassed. He just doesn't want to talk to us about it. His pit bulls come out, chase my wife off, trying to put the garbage can out, which they don't have garbage service. I don't know what they do with their garbage, but anyway, we're just tired of the theft. There's been listed in there. There's been stealing going on. Every confrontation that has happened with Mr. Sherling has been due to his acts, either trespassing on our property, his dogs, or theft. The police reports are there to back it up. We just want it. The end result is we want to stay on property. We want him to stay on his property, and that's where we want to leave it.
Mr. Sherling, what's your response to what you just heard from Mr. Riesenstein?
As far as the theft, the police were here the day that we called him on the incident that he brandished a gun and was waving it around and threatening us. That's after that was before he put 2 posts in the ground right beside my bedroom window that day. While I was sitting there watching TV, about to get ready to take a shower, I looked over at him. He smiled at me through the window as he was driving posts in the ground. And he was just smiled. And so the theft occurred when I went out there and pulled the post out of the ground, brought him up, laid him next to the sidewalk. And then the police came out and were asking questions about the post. And I told them I didn't have them. And they were right next to their feet. And I just looked at them. I go, yeah, they're right there. And that's the incidence of the thieving.
And if I'm reading your materials you submitted, Mr. Riesenstein, this was a BB gun used to shoo off the dogs. That was the extent of the gun incident?
Correct.
Okay.
And Your Honor, those dogs have never chased his wife ever. They barely even leave the yard.
Okay. Go ahead there, Mr. Riesenstein. Okay. Did you hear that? Mr. Sherling, did you hear what Mr. Riesenstein said?
No.
He said that's not true, basically. Okay.
I don't know what to, I don't understand how to answer that. It's just, I'm not going to sit here and call him a liar and he called me a liar back and forth and back and forth. So I'm not doing that. He knows the truth and that's all it is to it.
Right.
May I say one more thing, Your Honor?
Sure.
There's been a considerable amount of theft. Logs.
What other things?
Cones, logs, stakes. He pulled survey stakes out the day the surveyors were there. He went and pulled all of our stakes out. He stole my construction cones. He has taken a bed frame we were going to use to make a homemade screener for screening our topsoil. He has harassed us and my wife. And we have wrote that down in there. The police reports to back it up with the logs.
Okay. So, Mr. Sherling, did you hear that?
Yeah, something about a bed frame that I've never ever seen and cones that I've never ever seen. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Survey stakes.
I think survey stakes. I never pulled one up as of yet.
Okay. So, did I just lose power? This thing will help me. So again, this comes from me before with regard to an anti-harassment order. You've heard the definition of the harassment. And as I listened to the testimony, reviewed the filings in the case, these are two neighbors that are in conflict, definitely, but I don't find that it rises to the level of harassment. It's just conflict over what property is where. and who's able to do what with where they live. I did see in the files or in the submissions of Mr. Rosenstein, a letter from attorney to Mr. Schuyling, who indicated, you know, you may have adversely possessed, which might be true, but if you guys can't agree on, and apparently you can't, on where the property lines are and who has a proper easement and so forth, you're going to need to get that sorted out by a judge, a superior court judge. I can't, you know, anything I do here, if I grant an order or not, it's not going to resolve the issues that confronts you two. It's the issue is where that property line is. So I heard Mr. Schierling that you had a survey done, but I'm not going to ask you what your intention is with that, but you folks either need to work this out from yourselves or get a superior court judge to work it out for you. But I'm not going to enter an order at this time. I just, like I said before, not all neighbor conflict rises to the level of harassment. And yeah, you guys don't like each other. You have trouble getting along, but at this point, I'm not going to enter an order. I don't find that it rises to the level of harassment. And so you both are free to leave the Zoom call. You're free to leave the Zoom call. Mr. Riesenstein, you're free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Mr. Fields. Actually, while you're making your way to the table, I see all three squallies are here. And could you all come on the Zoom call, please?
Yep.
And then Ellie Holbert appear.
She's not coming.
Okay. Well, it's now 9:47. Okay. And so I'm getting a weird feedback from, hopefully that'll stop. So it's now 9:47. She's not appear. It appears she was here earlier on a anti-harassment temporary position. The temporary order was set for hearing, then it was reset to today. Given her lack of appearance, then orders will be entered on, all three of you have asked for orders against her. Those will all be granted, and those will be entered at the end of the calendar. I'm going to enter orders that you can get access. They'll be in place for 1 year. And given her non-appearance, you can get copies of those off the Thurston County District Court website.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
No,
I
no
do.
questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're
I have a
welcome.
question.
Which one? Who's speaking? Go ahead.
This is Stephanie.
Go ahead.
I asked for a 10-year order because I already have had her blocked for over a year and she's come back. So I would like that. I know you said 1 year, but mine says 10, please.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to start with one. And if it's before the end of the year, if you need to extend that, you can come before the court and ask to extend that.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're all free to go. We'll do this.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a great day.
Thank you. So, Mr. Fields, so you're a little bit late. And we were able to get two back. All four of those folks were here. Mr. Allen, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Schwenning, and Mr. Klingberg. And then when right before I learned you were on your way, about 9:30, which is about a half an hour, which is what I typically give, I said they could be on their way. And so they're gone now, and I can't bring them back. So we're not going to have the hearing here today. And we're going to reset this for 2 weeks. Mr. Schwenning, thank you for coming back. Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming back. And we'll reconvene in 2 weeks. And then
Hey, Your Honor, actually, I can
Yes.
bring back, is it Terrence and the other one are the only ones missing, correct?
Terrence and Stephen Klingberg, can you get them here?
I can. Just give me a few moments.
Okay, go ahead. Well, great. Then Mr. Field, we're going to take another case. There's only one other case to take. We're going to take that case. And then when we're done with that case, if you can get them back here, we will hear your case here today. So, Mr. Fields, I'm going to have you. Take a seat back.
Might be easier if we can, because I have the police reports.
Okay, I just want you to go back and take a seat. When we take your case up, we will do that.
Thank you.
And then we have Mary Bigelow. Come up and take a seat at this table. Linda Struble, is that you, ma'am? Come up and take a seat at that table, at that chair. And then we have Mickey Struble. You can come on up as well. And are you with them, ma'am? Keep coming, Mickey Struble. I'm talking to you'd be like, yes. Are you involved in this case also?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your name? Okay. Are you Is one of these folks going to call you as a witness? Okay, I'll just have you wait there for now. And then when the time comes, yeah. Okay, so we have a number of cases here. First of all, Linda, and again, I want to make sure I know Linda Struble. That's you, ma'am?
Yes.
And that's you, Ms. Bigelow, in the middle, and then you're Mickey Struble.
And I may need to stand. Sometimes I have some back issues. So
That's fine. Absolutely. Do whatever you need to do to make yourself most comfortable. And then here we have Michael and Vicky here. So initially, Linda Struble asked for an order in 24-285 against Mike and Vicky here. And then on case 2488, 288, 289, and 29290, Michael and Vicky here have asked for separate orders against Ms. Bigelow, Ms. Linda Struble, and Ms. Mickey Struble. And so I guess since Linda Struble, okay, I guess we'll go in this order here. So I'll hear from Linda Struble first. She's a petitioner and then I'll hear from the Hares in response. They can address, and then I'll hear from them all with regard to in response to Linda Struble's request for protection order. I'll hear from them also on their request for no contact order against the other three folks. And so, Linda Struble, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm? Do you swear and affirm that information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God.
You may put your hand down. And how is it? You also, this is another neighbor, which we actually see all too often, I should say. This is a neighbor situation as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you live next door to the Hares there?
Yes.
So how is it that you need an order against the Hares? Tell me what's been going on that, and again, you heard me, I think, give the definition of harassment. How is it that what the Hares are doing is harassing you?
Well, it started quite some time ago in 2019. So all of that we had hoped to have settled by the previous manager of the park where we live, the mobile home park. We live very close.
Do you live next to each other? Or are you
Yes.
adjoining lots? What's the issue? Tell me what's been going on.
Well, they don't like the way that that the trees or branches or bushes or anything go over onto their property. And for the past few years, 6 years, well, I haven't talked to them in 6 years, they would call the property manager, not property manager, but the park manager, and she would call me and say I needed to trim all the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
And we had been appeasing them to do that, even though we couldn't even go on their property. So I'd have to get someone else to go over and do that. Well, when we became a co-op and we had a professional property management, they called them as about 3 weeks after bought the place, all about the park, and complained to them, just like they had the previous manager, that they wanted the bushes trimmed. And the park, the Gateway, the new property management company, called and asked me, did I give the permission? And I said, of course, they've always had permission to trim on their side. Well, they were not happy that they would have to do trimming. Previously, I had to pay for 5 or 6 years of having someone do it and haul it off and do all the, and I had the maintenance person most of the time go over there because I didn't want to have any issues. And that way, but now that we don't have that maintenance person anymore. Oh, I don't know. There's been a lot.
Take your time. We have all morning. It's just a case or two left.
So as soon as Gateway called them back and said, yes, you have permission, not too long after that, a couple of days, I was out in my backyard and He yelled over the fence. I can't even say the things that they say without using profanity, or I can.
Well, you can, how about if you use like the first letter of the
Okay.
word that you,
So he said, he yelled at me. I was out in the yard. He yelled at me, cut your GD, SI, SH, whatever.
Okay.
And it just startled me. So I didn't respond at all. I just went in the house. So anyway, he didn't like the idea that he had to trim things on his side. So not too long after that, I get home and I was having a nice day, and it was, I think, on the 20th, I started writing this down. I have my notes here. So I didn't hear anything, just some loud yelling and fighting and stuff. That was the normal for them. But on the 17th, I came
was
home.
that fighting
and-
between the two of them? Was that fighting directly
Yes,
to you?
the two of them. It's always at that.
I just wanted to know whether that was directly. Go ahead, you make it.
And in fact, they do a lot of that.
Okay, well, that's not germane to
No,
whether or not you're
that's
entitled
not.
to an order. So I want to
I
know
know.
what your interaction has been with them.
Right. So on the 17th of August, no, on the 20th, I think it was the 20th of June, I get out there, I go outside, and we came home from, went to the casino and came home, and I looked outside, and there was this pile of branches over onto my side of the fence, and it had crushed my flowers out there and knocked over my bird bath thing and statue and some of my solar lights, and it was just piled with branches. So I came in and I called Gateway. I had my friend, and she's also a board member.
Is that the woman in back there?
Yes.
Okay, continue on.
And she and her husband helped me take the branches off because there were quite a few, and brought them back. And I called because that was what I was supposed to do, is have a board member know and then call property management if you had any problems. So I've cleaned that all up, and I thought, and I understood that Gateway, the property management, had called and said, it's not throw the debris over on the other person's property. It was over a 6-foot fence. So it was all like, came down onto my plants and crushed some bushes. So then, let me see. So then that was in June. And then in August, I came home and there were more bushes, there were more branches and things over the fence. And I know that they had already been asked not to do by Gateway. And I came home and there were branches all over in my plants again. So I put them over the fence. This is a 6-foot fence, so I can barely reach, but I put them back where I thought, no, they shouldn't be put on my side and destroying my property again. So I thought it was solved. I called Gateway. I talked to Pam, one of the board members, and I thought that would take care of it. I get up Sunday morning, the next day at 8 o'clock, and I open up. That's my main view of my backyard from my front room window. And I got up and they were all back over again. So I went back out and I started putting them over the fence. And they must have seen me from their porch. And Vicky was like, okay, I'll take care of this. And she started throwing them back over. And it and there was a lot of profanity going on. From the porch, I was hearing F you, F you, F you, and BITCH and all these things. And it just, so I realized, oh, and she said we could do this all day, because I kept trying to put them back. And it just got to be so that I knew she said that it wasn't going to stop. So I just took some of the branches and took them to the very backyard where it couldn't keep dumping onto my plants. And I put him over the lower fence. Well, she came running around the side of the house and started throwing him back. So I just left him there and went inside. And meanwhile, she was just standing there shaking. She was so angry. And I told her I would call the police, and she said, call and see what happens. So I was upset, and I went in and called my daughter and said, this has happened for the third time now. And so then she came right over, because she lives in the park also. She's been there about 2 years to help, especially since I had cancer surgery about 3 years ago. She's moved into the park to help with different things for me. And she came over and parked in front of their house on the street, went onto the sidewalk in front of their house, and they had come running down and started yelling and screaming and cussing at her. And she said, I want you not to keep harassing my mother. And she knew that I was being upset. And then they asked her to get off the property, but she was not. She was just on the sidewalk. So she came back over. I had never gone onto their property ever in all these years. We didn't talk for 6 years after the first incident.
I'm going to stop you, and I'm going to thank you. I'm going to swear in, I guess, which one of the Hares wishes to speak? Mr. Hare. I'll hear from him in response to what you have told me. Then he's asking for orders against you and your daughter and Ms. Bigelow. I'll ask him why he wants those orders. Then I'll get a response from Ms. Bigelow and you, Matt, the younger Struble. So, Mr. Hare, could you raise your right hand, please? You swear and affirm that information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you put your hand down. You've heard what she had to say, so I'll hear from you in response.
Okay, well, most part is that it's about the bushes. And for 6 years, the old management, we'll cut them down every year because I got a $2,000 fence I put up, and it's rotting because the branches get stuck in between them and lay on it. And for 6 years, that's the way it went. She'd get them cut. We'd get a whole manager, and she never did it on her own. The manager always had to tell her time to cut those bushes back, encroaching on his property. And that was sort of the rule. And then when the new management took over here this last year, it seemed like nothing was going to be done at all about it. We called 5 or 6 times to the property manager. We even called the organization that supposedly is the organization that owns this place now. And nobody did anything at all. So I took to cutting them on my own, that was on my side of the fence, and I tossed them back over. Wasn't aware that once I cut them, that I inherited them, and that I was the one then supposed to pay to dispose of them. And that's basically what it came down to. And then it got all blown out of proportion that day. And there was cussing, both sides were cussing each other. And the threat of calling the cops was fine. And I was agreeing, let's get them over here and get this taken care of. Would have been pretty short. And a phone call probably would have solved this whole problem. But instead, they decided to come rush in my house and saying I was threatening her mother. Threatening, did you say you're going to kill my mother? You got a gun, Mr. Hare? Things like this that just kept antagonizing me, getting me louder and louder and louder. And none of it was true. And then she went and got the president of this organization and 2 more people. There was 4 of them then. Now this one comes up onto my porch, banging on my door. I opened the door, asked her what she wanted, and she started telling me, you're threatening the neighbor, and we're going to evict you. And then I told her, you know, if you would have took your job, this would have never continued. It would have been over with by now. And she takes her finger and she goes to my face and starts telling me, shut up, shut up. And one time her finger actually hit my nose. I told her that's an assault.
Just slow down a little bit. And who you're talking about? You're talking about?
I'm talking about the president of the organization. No,
okay, so
No, Mary.
Mary.
Okay, so
This is how that,
slow
but
down,
Linda
slow down
didn't
a
have
little
much
bit.
more to do
Back
after
up,
that.
just Mr. Hare, just slow down, back up. And go ahead. How did Ms. Bigelow become involved in this?
She is a president, right? I guess they called her and she come down. And I guess she was going to show some authority and come in and tell me she was going to evict me and that I was threatening the neighbor and I broke some rules at the park, which there was never a threat, ever one threat. If you look in the thing, you don't even see him mention a threat. And if there was, what was the threat? There was none. But the thing is, she was on my front porch, banging on my door and pointing her finger, telling me to shut my mouth, and then went at my face with her hand. This is not, I don't think, the way that somebody who's a president of a mobile home senior park should be treating senior citizens. And the other ones came in at that point, came in off the street. They were on the other side of my fence and actually did enter my property. I told them, you know what, this has gone far enough. You're trespassing. It's time for you to leave. And there was cussing, both sides. A lot of accusations being made that weren't true. We never stole her damn food from the food bank.
Anything further?
No, it's just that's about it.
Okay, and your interaction with Ms. Bigelow was confined to that particular incident at that
Front
time?
porch, yes.
And
The
what
daughter was
about Ms. Struble, the younger?
Yeah, she was the threatening. She was sort of the bully of the little gang they had there. She was telling my wife, egging her on, hit me, hit me, hit me. And then telling her, I'll put you in the ground. Then she'd turn around and F off and die. This is the kind of thing that we were putting up with on our property. Then, like I said, a phone call would have probably took care of this whole situation. Got blown way out of proportion. And then I felt attacked. And if it would have been men, it would have been a gang, considered a gang. But it was 4 women.
So, Ms. Bigelow, could you raise your right hand, please? You swear and affirm the information testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I have a motion to dismiss to read. Would you like that first, or do you want me to testify? How would you like me to proceed?
I'd like you to testify. So we're all here.
All
We can
right.
swear you in, and if you've been sworn in, and then, yeah, just let me know what you think, and then I'll hear your motion at the end of everything. Just
All
let me
right,
get
thank
everything
you.
in place.
You've read my filed statement.
Yeah.
Correct?
But I do
So
want you to, if you could summarize for the
Yes,
record, that would be
I
great.
will. I am a board member of the co-op. The co-op just recently came into fruition. I was one of the people who helped make that happen. It was a long and arduous process. And the whole reason I went over there was to provide the Hares with the community rules and the bylaws and show them where they were violating that. As a board member, we are privy to all of the issues that are happening because it's reported to us by the property management company. It's not something that we talk to members about because it's confidential. And we had on notice several times that Linda Struble had been had branches thrown on her property by the Hares after they trimmed it on their property. I know that Gateway, the management company, had told the Hares that they could not toss this is what they reported to the board, that they could not toss the branches onto Linda Struble's property, that they had every right to cut them because it's overhang, but they did not have the right to do that. They'd been put on notice a number of times. It was Sunday, and in general, unless it's fire, flood, or famine, the property management company is not available on a Sunday. And I got called by Mickey Struble saying that her mom was extremely upset and was crying and shaking. And Mickey went over and she said she told the Strubles to leave her mother alone and that they came at her incredibly enraged. She was on the sidewalk. This is what she said. She was on the sidewalk, and that he was yelling at her so much so that his teeth came out, and the level of rage that he had was frightening. And so Pam Lamborghini behind me is the vice president. I'm the president of the board. We both are privy to the steps that have taken place to mitigate this. And so she called me, and we met at Linda Struvel's house and discussed what we should do. And we determined that we should deliver them the rules and bylaws and let them know that the way that this all can stop is if they adhere to the rules. So myself and Pam was behind me. I knocked on their door. I didn't bang on their door. I knocked on their door loudly because my experience so far is that many of the people in the park can't hear. So I knocked loudly. If it was too loud, I apologize. But I said that we had a complaint that they were tossing limbs onto Linda Struvel's property. And I didn't get much more out than that. And Mr. Hare said BS. And then he came out onto the porch, followed by his wife, and screamed at me that she was a liar, screamed that they were all liars. And I just said, you need to stop yelling at me. And he did not. And ultimately, and I categorically deny that I ever put my hands in his face. I did not do that. I did ask him to not yell at me. And they were just yelling. I asked them, I tried to give them the bylaws. They refused them, said a bunch of stuff about the co-op and me and whatever. It was not pleasant. And then he asked me to get off his property, which I did, started to. And then she said something about the rules. I turned around and said, do you want a copy of these? She said, no. And I said, okay. And we started walking off. Pam was already out on the sidewalk. I was just about there. I closed the gate fairly strongly because it was sticky when I tried to get in. And I was heated. I was definitely heated. I don't like being yelled at like that. It was kind of scary having him yell in my face. He talks about a senior community. I too am a senior. I too am, I think I'm older than they are, actually. And it was frightening.
I'm not asking anyone's age.
Hmm?
I'm not asking anyone's age.
You are a good man. So I've never, ever spoken to the Hares before, ever, that I know of. And certainly I've never been to their property or house. I've never knocked on their door. I've never done anything. And we just wanted them to know that they needed to adhere to the rules, because the next step, and what I did say is the next step is a move for eviction. I was concerned that they would be evicted. I don't want them evicted. I think that's a horrible thing to have happen. But property management companies follow a process, and we wanted them to be aware of the rules. That's what we wanted. And then he was yelling at me more, and I said, he's called me, I can't remember exactly what he called me, but something. And I said, say that to my face, buddy. I was on the outside of the fence at that time. And then he started to come down the stairs, and his wife tried to hold him back, but he came down the stairs and got in my face. And then when they realized they were being videoed, he was doing this on the video. And I don't feel like he was trying to attack me at all. Like he was just being, I don't know what he was being, but he did that. That's it.
And then you, Mickey Struble, could you raise your right hand, please?
Yes,
You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can put your hand down and go ahead, ma'am. Anything you wish to say. You've heard your name has been mentioned a few times. I'll hear from you regarding all this.
Okay. So I have the history from my mother. It's been an ongoing thing. It started way back a few years, I think maybe 6 years. Whenever they moved in, there was some contention there about the property lines and fencing. And the way we resolved at that point is I worked with the property management at the time. I was actually traveling for some work, and I worked with her to put in, and my mother actually moved some flowers back when we put a fence in, and I paid for the fencing, and the property manager paid to have it installed. And then every time something would come up with trimming, my mom would have some neutral person trim it on their side and pull the stuff away. And this seemed to be pretty good for several years.
Until the maintenance person went away.
The maintenance person went away. And so there was no longer this person. So my mother called the property management and said, and they said, well, they're allowed to trim on their side. And then, she explained what had happened with it. So I think that's where the change happened, is that now they were angry about having to trim on their side and remove it. So I had this history, and I know this had been going on for a while, and she had been calling the property management, and it was a Sunday. The property management was closed on Sunday. So she called me crying, very upset that they had done it for like 3 times in a row. So I went over there. I drove my car over there. I live in the park as well. I parked in front of their place. And I walked up to the sidewalk and I said, hello. And they came out, they rushed out very quickly. They were much angrier when I was there, when it was just me, than when it was 3 of us. There was never 4. I don't know, or 4 or 5. I think in the thing it said 5. And then 4. But at first it was just me. And I said, I want you to stop harassing my mother and quit throwing things over the fence. And then they were calling me a liar. There was cussing back and forth. And finally, in the end, they said, fuck off. And I just get off my property. And I said, fuck you off. I said the same thing. And I wasn't very pleasant either. And so I left. I never entered their property. I was always on the sidewalk on the outside of the gate. I just wanted this stuff to stop. I've been going to my mother's for 15 years. And I've never had any interaction with them except for this one incident. And it was very obvious that I should not have, and have no intention ever of interacting with them. I would have liked to maybe come to some kind of resolution where we could have trimmed. I'm happy to pay for some trimming if that would have resolved it, but I'm not sure that it would. But there wasn't any space for that to happen that day. So I went back, I left. And what I said as I was leaving. And I went back over to my mother's and I called the board because I knew property management wasn't available. And again, I want to say there was never 5 people at any time. I don't understand where that number came from.
Just the 3 of you?
Yes, it was me, and then Pam and Mary when we went back.
All right, thank you. And then, ma'am, I haven't heard from you yet. Is there anything you wish to say at this time?
I would.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Swear and affirm the information and testimony that you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Well, when Mary came to our home, well, first I'll back up. When Mickey came at first by herself, she didn't enter the property, but she pulled up in a very aggressive manner and jumped out of her car, ran to the sidewalk, and started yelling at us to stop harassing her mother, stop throwing things over the fence. There were words exchanged or whatever. And then she left and went over to her mother's. And when there were 4 of them, there was Mary and Mickey and Linda and Pam. They all came into our property, and they were Linda stayed back by the fence, but she was inside our fence. They came and they pounded on the door so hard that it actually frightened me. I was very leery, and we came out on the porch, and my husband and I didn't leave the porch, and Mary was standing on the porch very closely. And as they were all arguing, I didn't think she was being friendly. So she asked if we wanted the copy of the rules and bylaws. And I said, no, because we already have them. We were not aware before this particular day that it was against the law for us to throw the branches back onto her property, which if we had known that, we wouldn't have done it.
Doesn't that make sense though?
Well, no, because as we kept yelling at her, it's your stuff. You trim it. You've done it every year. And now for some reason this year, they've decided not to do it.
Well, I think you heard why.
Because it lays on our fence and it's rotting our fence.
But I mean, you heard why it didn't get cut anymore.
Well, I'm not understanding why it didn't get cut anymore. Nobody's ever had to come on our property to cut it. They've always done it from her property. And what I feel like that day, if Mary wanted to confront us about this, she could have called on the phone. They didn't have to come at us like a gang, which all their behavior was very aggressive, I felt, and didn't think that was at all necessary. There's things in their statements all that are not accurate, but I'm not going to bore you with all those because they're not pertinent to this. It's just little things here and there, but this has caused both of us. My husband has a very bad heart condition, and for several days after this, he was so shook by this that I was afraid that he might either have a heart attack or a stroke.
And I have been just a bundle of nerves over this because we don't feel that we have done anything so terrible that if everybody would just, her daughter says that she would arrange to have the bushes cut. All right, if you felt that way, why did you let it get this far? Why didn't you just do it? Because you know it's been done every year. So that was our complaint. That was all this big stuff is all about. It just seemed like it was too much made out of it till it got to be a big blown up issue. And as far as talking about evicting us, we didn't feel that we had done something so terrible that we should be evicted for it. We've never been aggressive except that fact on our side of the fence. And yes, we've thrown branches back over. We didn't intentionally break her plants. We didn't know what she has on the other side of the fence. I can't even see over it. But it's just gotten to the point where if they would just arrange every year when these branches, well, these trees grow up, I don't know, maybe 20 feet tall. And if they would just arrange to have this stuff cut every year, there would be no problem whatsoever. We keep to ourselves. We expect everybody else to keep to themselves. And that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you. What sort of tree are we talking about here? I forgot to ask
I
that.
don't know. They just grew up when I started. When I got there,
Are they trees or bushes or?
Those are the bushes.
it's a bush.
Okay, good, ma'am. That's you. All right.
The,
All right.
the
So,
the thing was that I paid for it every time.
Well, because
And I paid
so you
for
need to be
the,
quiet, ma'am.
I paid for that to happen every time.
So, Mr. Fields, we're almost done. We'll start with you in a minute. That's fine. So, here's what's going to happen today. So basically yes, ma'am.
May I make a motion to dismiss?
We'll just stand by for a minute. Let me
Okay.
tell you what I'm going to do and
Thank you.
maybe that'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
And so with regard to, again, there's 4 separate actions here. Ms. Struble is asking for an order against the Hares, and then the Hares are asking for an order against Ms. Bigelow, and then both Strubles. But so essentially what happened here, there seems to be a lot of agreement on what exactly happened here is that some bushes or trees or some sort of foliage is growing on Ms. Linda Struble's property that occasionally grows, as things do around here, and it overhangs a fence. In the past, there have been a few instances where Ms. Struble would take care of that, have that paid for, or have that taken care of by a maintenance person who apparently no longer works at this particular establishment, this housing, the senior housing development, I guess would be the best way to put it. And so then that stopped. And then, and when you live on a piece of property and some tree or a bush on the adjoining piece of property overhangs onto your property, it's your responsibility and right to take care of that. And it's not appropriate to, which should be intuitive, I would think, is just to cut it off and then toss it into the neighbor's yard. And again, there's some dispute as to whether or not they'd been told whether you can or can't do that. And then Ms. Bigelow, is my understanding, was that in the bylaws?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not tree branches,
But
but
throwing-
you
but throwing-
can't harass
Right.
a person continuously.
And so I find the act of, cutting the branches, frankly, that's going to be your responsibility. Ms. Struble was doing you a favor over the years for having that taken care of, but if it overhangs onto your property, you can make arrangements to have that cut. You might have to bear the cost of that. There are limits on that. You can't do something that kills the tree or anything like that, although which I've seen happen in this arena. And so you can't do that, but you can certainly cut branches that overhang onto your property. What you cannot do is take those branches or cuttings and throw them into the your next door neighbor's yard, which apparently happened on more than one occasion, which I would find that it's a series of acts. Again, you're just doing that just to do it. And for lack of a better term, get Ms. Struble's goat, which you clearly did. So I will find that activity is harassing. I'll grant the order from Linda Struble requesting the order is you're just not to talk to each other. There's no distance restriction or anything like that. So it's not going to affect your ability to go to and from your house or anything like that. You just can't have for the next year. You're not to have any contact with Ms. Linda Struble. Do you understand that?
Yes.
With regard to your petition against the other three, those are all going to be denied. I don't find there was an incident. There was apparently a blow up where voices were raised on all parties, but that's not a series of acts over a period of time, which leads to the rebel harassment. So I'm going to deny those orders. But, I think everybody knows how everybody feels. If a pattern does develop, you can bring this back and we can look at it again. But those are going to be the orders here for today. I'm going to grant Ms. Linda Struble's order, and then your request for orders against all those three will be denied. Go ahead, sir.
Could I have my rights to bear arms and buy a weapon back?
That in the
It was in the order that I couldn't buy or purchase or have any weapons on my property.
give me just a second.
I've never had a law, anything against a gun, never used a gun.
Yeah, no. Again, just by way of background, and domestic violence related orders, yes, that does require a surrender of firearms. In these sorts of cases, anti-harassment, in order to be to find some sort of, like if a weapon was used. And so it's written in there, but that was never part of the order. The box needs to be checked for you to surrender weapons and all of that. That box was not checked. So your firearm rights were never affected one way or the other.
Fine, that's great.
And so the order will, let's see. So do you have a full order and deny? Okay, thank you. So give me just a stick it. Give me a few moments to fill these out, and then you'll all get copies of them, and you'll all be all free to go. Okay, so the parameters of the order: you're not to cause her any harm, you're not to contact her in any way, you're not to engage in stalking behavior like following her around or anything like that. In terms of exclude and stay away, I didn't check that box. It has distance restrictions, don't come within the 1,000 feet or what have you. That's not in place, but you're not to come onto her property and you're not to contact her in any way. Do you understand all that?
Yes.
And then this order will exist for 1 year. If you feel it necessary to renew that before the end of 1 year, you can do that. Hopefully, this will work itself out where that won't be necessary. Ma'am, younger Struble, I did hear you mention that you're willing to arrange to have those things cut. There's nothing to stop you from doing that on your own. And then I'm just throwing that out there.
Thank you.
But it's not required.
We're going to look at it and see if there's something we can do here. Avoid this.
It all makes sense.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I may have to take a break if because the clerk is involved in wrapping up the previous hearing. So Mr. Fields, my mistake, is here in court. He's asking for orders against all three of you folks, and four, excuse me. And so Mr. Fields, I'll hear from you first. Looks like all your petitions, I did review the petitions. They look kind of similar. And I'm frankly, I'm having a difficult time figuring out where we're at here. So I'm hoping you can clear that up for me. Okay. So could you raise your right hand, please? You swear and affirm the information you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
How is it you need orders against? Again, I'm going to go through each one of these.
Okay.
Start this because this is the order of the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Allen first, then Mr. Johnson, then Mr. Schwenning, and then Mr. Klingberg. But before you start, I just have one question. Do you live at Drexel House too?
Yes,
so
sir.
all five of you folks live at Drexel House. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
Except for Stephen, even though he lives with Terrence, he doesn't live there.
Okay.
He's out of his caregiver, but he's there all the time.
So again, how is it that, why do you need orders against these folks?
Okay, for
Terrence, start with Terrence Allen first, just because he's first on the calendar.
Terrence Allen, he has verbally attacked me. He has followed me outside the building, across the street. Then him and Stephen Terrence was in front yelling at me. He spit on me. Stephen was behind him with a knife, and they actually tried to assault me. Then one of the guys came out and pulled me away from there. Stephen tried to hit me with his car. Since I moved in July of last year, I've had issues with Terrence and with Stephen for the same issues. They will follow me to the gas station. Stephen will follow me to the Albertsons. He always has the knife and other weapons with him.
This is Stephen Kleinberg you're talking about?
Yes, he does. He will actually follow me inside of Albertsons. At home, Mr. Terrence Allen has threatened me over and over. He spit in my face. I called the landlord, and I do have a copy of the December when it started again. I have a copy of the police report, and the police told me I have the number is 20.
Okay, I don't have access to that.
Okay.
And in terms of a police report, I can't get those.
Okay. Well, I did file a police report. They said I had to come here and deal with the harassment first, and then also I put in for small claims as well for the money that they owe me. Mr. Allen has owed me since the beginning of the year. He was going to pay it, and then they got belligerent and said he's not going to do anything. Cost me everything.
How much money does he owe you?
He owes me $1,000.
Why?
I lent him money when we went to a casino. Same thing with Mr. Stephen. He has got money out of my room and says he's going to pay me back, and he didn't want Alan to know anything about it. He owes me also $1,000.
So,
and they continue to harass me, saying they're not going to pay me. They drop me off on the corner or try to tag me on the side of the corner. And that's when it all got worse. And that's when I went to the landlord.
And so what do the folks at Drexel House have to say about all this?
They claim that they won't tell me what they've done to them, but it's still happening. Even
they're
yesterday,
still living there?
Yes, sir. Even yesterday when I was leaving the building, Terrence was right behind me. Right behind me. He should not be around me at all. And they continue to do it, even after you gave them this.
What about, I haven't heard anything about Mr. Schwenning or Mr. Johnson.
So we do one thing at a time. I can go to the next one.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Swing, Joshua, he is the one who actually put my computer inside my room. When he did that, he intentionally yelled at me again. I guess he's on some kind of medication. And when he's not on the medication, he will come into the room. He hit me once, then turned around, sent me another text message to come upstairs because he owed me money as well. I went upstairs, he opened the door, then he slammed the door in front of me. I never went inside his room whatsoever, and that's what I reported to the management again, or to their lawyer as well. He says that he has sexually harassed me, and he actually sent a picture of himself in not clothed, and I have a copy of that picture as well. He will continue. His car is in front. He came to where I used to have a vehicle. He came to my car and said that I owed him money because I should have paid him more money for doing the computer. I paid him the $200 that he asked for. He turns around and took more money from me. He owes me a total of $455 because all the stuff that he asked me to buy, he now will not do it. And he continues tells me that that I'm a fag, he's a fag, that all of them together, I guess they know each other, Terrence, Allen, and Joshua. And I can't deal with him because when he is not on his medication or when he's doing drugs, he approaches me. And that's the issue I have. As for Mr. Johnson, Michael, he actually in front of Gina yelled at me again. What happened with him was he actually had my vehicle, had an accident, would not, first he said that it was the guy's fault, but he hit the guy from behind. He will not pay me the money that he owes me for that.
So he was in your car?
He was in my car and had an accident. And they totaled the car completely. He did give me $200. I can say that. But other than that, he has not paid the rest of it, which is a total of $5,000. And that's a copy of what the insurance company that I'm lost.
Okay.
And that's why all of them is together.
Well, let me hear from them. And Mr. Allen, I'm just going to, again, just because this is the order that's on the calendar, I'll go Mr. Allen, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Schwenning, and then Mr. Klingberg. So Mr. Allen, can you raise your right hand? What were you saying? Something?
Text messages from all of them of what they owe me.
Okay, I don't see. Did you file any of that?
No, I tried to get it to it, but I have it here.
Okay. Did they? Okay, hang on. Just put your hand down there just for a second.
Yeah, I have text messages from them.
Okay. So Mr. Allen, go ahead, raise your hand. Sorry about that. You swear to affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
You can put your hand down. I'll hear your response to what Mr. Fields is asking for. You can put your hand down.
It's just the lag in the computer.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Your Honor, none of that is true. The part I owe him money is true because we went to the casino and he did give me money to play, and I said I would pay him back, and I just hadn't paid him back yet, which I will pay him back. But the rest of the stuff is not true. There's no, I've never assaulted him. I've never verbally assaulted him. I never did any of those things to him. I didn't follow him outside, across the street, or anything like that. I have witnesses here for that incident that happened that night. I have witnesses here that the person that he was involved in, I have them here in my place as a witness, if that's the incident that he's talking about. And I also have the gentleman that he says told him to stop, which is my neighbor, which is the person that lives right next door to me, that they were all there. So none of that is true. The only thing that's true is that he gave me some money to play at the casino. I wasn't feeling well. I was going to come back home, and I didn't want to ruin his night and my friend's night because that was driving him. So I decided to just stay in the car. They made me get out of the car and go in the casino, and my foot was swollen so big. It was just huge. And I just was so uncomfortable. And that's it. I owe him money. He loaned me money or to play at the casino, and I pay him back. That's it. I never was belligerent about it. I said I never sent him nasty emails about it or anything like that.
How much do you owe him?
He gave me $200. I also have the text messages from that particular the evening or what have you, and me telling him that I'll pay him back what I owe him. And it's nowhere near $1,000. I don't even know where that came from.
So when did this trip to the casino take place?
It was in March, between March and April. I can look on my phone's charging up.
So about 5 or 6 months ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you guys were friends at one point?
Oh, yes, I had no problems with Mr. Fields. The only time I had a problem with Mr. Fields is, and I'm not going to bring, because that's his old, I told him before that I didn't want him to talk to me or my friends or my guests because he was being inappropriate with them. And they came to me. And so if my guests in my home are uncomfortable, then I'm uncomfortable and I have to address that issue. So I addressed that issue. And I said, told Mr. Fields to cease all conversation with me, all communication with me and my guests. And I went downstairs and I told the resident assistant, I had them log it into the computer, what was going on, and that we no longer wanted to affiliate ourselves with him. And that was before even the casino time. And so I didn't speak to Mr. Fields and for about maybe almost a year until this past January or December when I came back from Texas. He knocked on my door and said that there was some food over there at the other building that the Knights of Columbus had brought over for the veterans. And I was getting dressed anyway. And I said, well, thank you. That was awful nice of you. I said, I appreciate that. That was my first interaction with him after the almost a year of not speaking with him. And so then that boiled down, he started coming back down to the house. And I said, okay, I'm gonna let that water be under the bridge. Where we had a discussion about the inappropriateness. That still continued on even then. And so I stayed pretty much my distance, and I wouldn't engage myself. But he came down to my home. I mended his pants probably sometime in March or April. What else did I do? I did everything. I even wished him happy. I cooked him food. I wished him a happy Father's Day. That's the last time that I said to any messages to Mr. Field was that a happy Father's Day. And against the allegation of Mr. Fields saying that I was behind him yesterday, that's not true, Your Honor. I went upstairs to the 4th floor to get my friend Saka, who is going to help me with some, issues I have, some stuff I have to do. And so he wasn't home. He stayed on the 4th floor. So I pushed the elevator, and I got in an elevator from the 4th floor, and I went back down to my floor, which is the 2nd floor. And when I got down to the 2nd floor, when the elevator opened up, there was Mr. Fields there. Why he was on the 2nd floor, I don't know. And so I just politely just walked on by, didn't say anything to him, and went into my room, and that was it. I never followed him into Albertsons. I never said any of those things to him at all. And I read the petition, and and it said that I called him names like the N-word, and then had rape in parentheses. And I've never did anything like that or said anything like that. I don't even talk like that. True that.
Right. Let me hear, since you're there with you, let me hear from Mr. Klingberg next. I know it was a little bit out of order. Mr. Klingberg, could you raise your right hand? Can you swear and affirm the information you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And you guys live together?
No, I'm his. Can I put my hand down?
Yes, of course. Sorry.
I'm his caregiver, and he pretty much needs around the clock care, so yeah, I pretty much stay here, but I'm not actually living here.
Got it. Go ahead. I'll hear from you on this issue, on these issues.
Well, as far as the money thing, I didn't know that I owed him anything. He offered to pay me $100 to take him, to let him ride with us to the Emerald Queen Casino, because he didn't have a ride or whatever. So he offered to pay me $100. We go out to the casino and we're on our way back. And now he wants to argue and cuss at us about it and debate what he said he would pay me, And I don't like to argue. I'm not a drama guy, And so I was just like, dude, you said $100. $100 is what it should be. He didn't even give me the $100 in the end. It was I don't know what it was. I can't remember, but it wasn't no $100. And I was okay with that, And running the car down and running him down in my car, that's just absurd. I mean, he's walking, like I would never try to harm a senior, let alone a veteran. Yeah. I have no quarrel with the dude. I don't speak to him on any level. We're all gonna run past each other in the hallways or going outside. We live in the same building. We're bound to run into each other, right? And I don't ever talk to him. I don't ever look at him. I don't even acknowledge that he is there because we've had problems. And he has targeted me before, which is another police problem that happened just recently. It was like maybe a month ago, something like that.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was helping, we had a neighbor two doors down on the same floor as us. His name was Dennis. And he was leaving, he got evicted from here. So I was just helping him move because there wasn't anybody else that would help him. He only had a few little things left, enough to fill a car or two. And I was literally in his room, picking things up with both hands, lifting like you would. And I take it all the way down the stairs, and I was stuffing my car, stuffing his car, not even noticing anything else going on. I was completely focused on, getting this stuff done because it was hot as hell that day. Excuse my language. And we put the last things in the car. Dennis gets in his car and he's already pulling out of his parking spot as I'm getting into my car. But I see Dennis stopped talking to somebody, and it is Mr. Fields. And, so I'm just like, okay. So I get in my car and started waiting for him to get done talking so we can go. I was going to follow him to his storage unit. And at some point I noticed Dennis start to I guess you could say he was trying to holler at me, but my windows were up. So he signaled for me, right? And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And he says, he's trying to find his phone and it's somewhere in this area. And Mr. Fields instantly comes directly toward me, toward my car. Oh, it automatically has to be in my car, And so Dennis, being the good guy he is, and me too, he's like, well, if you want us to sit here and wait, until you find your phone, just to prove that it wasn't us or in our cars, then we can do that. So we did that. And yeah, we pretty much sat there. He called the cops and insisted that it was in my car or Dennis's car, mainly mine. And when the cop showed up, she was like, You know, she pretty much, I wouldn't say she laughed it off, but she knew it wasn't in our cards. She knew we had nothing to do with this.
Let me hear from Mr. Schwenning. Mr. Schwenning, can you activate your camera for a minute? Hi, could you raise your right hand, please? You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
I'll hear from you.
So on July 9th, I was involved in an incident that led to the filing of a police report, which is central to why we are here today. The report was officially filed by an officer's schedule, but I remember the officer Magdaleno, which is also who Mr. Terrence mentioned as well. She was the one who interacted with me directly over the phone after the incident. I had already left the scene and returned to my apartment, so Officer Magdaleno called me and we discussed what happened there. The police report makes some key points that I'd like to highlight. First, there's audio video footage of the incident that has been uploaded to evidence.com, which clearly shows what happened that day. During the conversation with Officer Magdaleno, she noticed that I was she noted that I was genuinely afraid this situation would only get worse if nothing was done. But I was also worried that taking action could lead to more retaliation from Tyree. Unfortunately, that is what happened. And a few weeks later, Tyree placed empty cat food cans under the tire of my car, which clearly meant that his intent was malicious. And there is also video footage of that as well, which is being submitted to the police. Additionally,
what did happen, Mr. Schwenning? What did happen that led to the police being called? She came out. I later found out that he was accusing me of stealing phones. I didn't know anything about that day on July 9th. I never heard anything about phones being stolen until the 27th when she called me again and we discussed the case again. That's when she told me there was no need to mention it to you because I know you didn't take it. I know those guys didn't take it. She really did. She was pretty clear on that. She also made some statements. Let's see. Said she attempted to contact Tyree. She said, I attempted to contact Tyree to obtain his side of the story, but every time I called, his phone went straight to voicemail. Based on my investigation, I would be forwarding charges against Tyree Fields for threats of intimidation and harassment to the Olympia Municipal Attorney for review. And I also have a police report on that. With that being said, I'm also filing a cross anti-harassment order against him. I'm in school, Your Honor, and I'm also in the process of moving to a different unit. None of us really need this time to be wasted. You don't need your time to be wasted. Some other communications with the property management. This is directly from her. She said, Josh, I just want to make you aware that we are proceeding with a legal process in regards to the multiple incidents with Tyree. I want you to be aware that he is being served with legal documents that, due to the police report and incident, have your name listed as a complainant. In regards to the incident with your car and the cat food can, we do not show or give residents camera footage. However, I would like to highly suggest you to proceed with obtaining a protection order. We are, of course, willing to provide the police or courts with any requested documents or camera footage that they may need in this process. Please inform staff and law enforcement of any additional incidents and or concerns that you have. And this communication from the property management, which I received on August 6th, clearly indicates that Tyree's anti-harassment order filed later on August 21st is not only frivolous, but also appears to be retaliatory. Both the property management and Officer Magdaleno advised me to file a protection order, and I'm currently in the process of doing that. I'll have that submitted along with all the communications with property management. I'll have the police report as well. And I also have a declaration from staff included that will be included in the anti-harassment order. See, there's also something else that I do want to bring to the court's attention. Tyree has repeatedly disclosed details about my mental health in his filings, which is a serious violation of my privacy. This kind of information is protected by my healthcare information, and that's a clear violation. I will definitely point those out in his petition. And taking all of this into account, the harassment, the retaliation, the violation of my healthcare privacy, and the defamatory statements, I believe it's crucial for the court to grant my request for a cross anti-harassment order, which in that time I'll defend against the false claims Tyree has made
and to seek the protection I was advised to get back in July. And moving on to the items and the sections of the petition that he filed, there's a lot of things I'd like to point out. In the first section, what kind of protection order do you want? The item is choose the type of protection order that best fits your situation. Tyree Fields was instructed to check only one type of protection order that best fits his situation. However, he checked multiple options: domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and anti-harassment. This excessive contradictory selection suggests a lack of understanding or an attempt to exaggerate the situation. The next section, how do the parties know each other? The item is check all the ways the protected person is connected or related to the restrained person. The issue with this is that Fields checked. Yes, sorry.
To stop you for a second, what's helpful to me, people who fill out these orders, you and Mr. Fields, I assume you're not lawyers. People make mistakes on those all the time. I don't put a whole lot of, that's not really germane to my decision whether or not I'm going to enter an order or not. So you don't need to point that stuff out to me. What I want to know is you've told me a lot about what's happened and the interaction you've had between the two of you and all of that, which I do appreciate. So you don't need to. I expect people to make mistakes and check wrong boxes and things of that sort. So do you have anything you wish to say about the interactions you've had between Mr. Fields and yourself?
Yeah, I do actually. So let's see. Fields wrote, Joshua came to my room to connect my streaming system, Google Speaker. He uses this is a quote, he uses my Wi-Fi daily. Going to school for computers, he came to my room, he was nude. We have cameras in the apartment building, Your Honor. This is just frivolous. This is baseless. These are false accusations. Let's see. Fields checked multiple items, including this. Oh, sorry. I already read that part. Let's see. The stalking behavior item. In item C, there's no evidence just to support a claim of stalking. I have had no inappropriate contact with Mr. Fields. Mr. Fields was new to the community. We met I was taking out the trash. He was in the smoking section, and I overheard him talking about his router getting hacked. And I'm in cybersecurity. That's my major in school. So it sparked my curiosity. I was interested in engaging. So I did, and I offered some service at network security. It's what I'm doing in my class right now. Network security, not now, but at that time, I was doing some network security for Cisco, and I was very much interested in expanding my experience. So I did that, and it started out as free. Then it ended up to be a continuous thing. It turned out to be like what was supposed to be like 10 minutes turned into like 3 days, and each of those 3 days was just like a couple of hours. He kept trying to find ways to keep me in his apartment. It got to the third day. He had me in his phone trying to have his Samsung photos synced with his phone or with his Microsoft account, and along in there, he had me come across some nude photos, and I immediately looked up and I saw him making a glass of alcohol drink, and I left. And since then, I have not had any contact with him. He's also came to my door aggressively, pounding on my door, demanding for money. I don't owe him any money, Your Honor. These are just false accusations. Let's see. Also, he's checked that I have firearms. I don't have firearms, Your Honor. The policies on the lease agreement says that we are not supposed to have firearms on the premises, and that is just another false accusation. Let's see.
Let me hear from Mr. Johnson there, Mr. Schwenning.
Okay. Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Johnson, you're on the telephone there. Can you unmute? *6 will unmute you.
Okay, I didn't know the phone went to mute.
Okay.
Thank you.
We probably did that. Could you raise your right hand, please?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead. I'll hear from you.
My relationship to Mr. Fields started back in March, and I had invited him over for a dinner. And he decided he liked the way I cooked and wanted to hire me as a caregiver that made meals for him. And it turned out to be very problematic. I told him that I have a permanent disability that's neuromuscular and skeletal. And I wouldn't be able to work full-time, barely part-time hours, maybe. And we ended up having to narrow it down to 10 hours a week because of the demands. I think he's probably a little upset about that I actually quit that job on April the 8th, where I had only been working for him for about a total of a month and 1 week as a caregiver. It was just requiring too much of my personal time to be able to take care of myself and meet my own needs. He says that I have harassed him, and I haven't even had a word to say to him in the last 4 months, in which I was very glad to keep it that way. Just trying to, keep the peace because we do live in close proximity to each other. I've never made any threats to him. I haven't ever stalked him. I look at these accusations, the allegations, and none of them are true.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to circle back to Mr. Fields. We've heard a lot. And so clear this up for me. Who owes you money? You're in the position of
Michael Johnson.
Oh,
he owes me for the car.
the car.
Yes, sir. It's $5,000. Mr. Joshua, I have his text message where I gave him money and for me to come upstairs and get the money. That's what happened on July 9th. That's when he closed the door. Prior to that, he has owed me money because of something with Amazon, and he never paid me back. That's a total of $450. For Terrence Allen, it's $1,000. And for
what's that? No, I'm just here. Just let me ask the questions and get the answers, and then I'll give a ruling on this, Mr. Schwenning. So just wait a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, Terrence Allen is $1,000, and Stephen is $1,000, and I have their text messages. Mr. Swimmer has been, he has records of being theft, a burglar, and for harassment. And that's what he did to me in my home because he was putting in the computer in my room.
Is that Mr. Schwenning you're talking about?
Mr. Swimmer. That's the one that I also have he was actually, he has harassment. I have the case number. He has DWLS, 3rd degree. He also charged for burglary and for theft. I also have those case numbers. And he was actually fined for theft, $35,000, and for burglary, $20,000. And that's through Thurston County. He does harass me consistently. And that's why we're having these issues. And he also owes me money as well. Mr. Allen also has DWLS 3rd degree, and he was found guilty in 3 different counties and Thurston County. Mr. Stephen, he came out of jail, of being in jail for 9 years, and became his caregiver. And now they're living together in the apartment. He does carry a knife every single day inside the building. There is absolutely cameras. Sometimes on certain floors they don't work, but coming inside the building, it does work. And that's why I went to manage myself because of what they have been doing. The camera on the side when they went across the street, that's when they had Stephen's car. Terrence was in front of me and Stephen was behind me. As well as, like I said, they followed me to the store, they followed me to the gas station and Albertsons. And they get to the point where I don't even leave the house because they're always there. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why I did the small claims court. when I went to
So
the police
hang on,
department.
I'm gonna stop you here now. You've made claims against them and small claims?
Yes, I have.
Are those scheduled for hearing?
Yes, sir.
When?
I think you put it in, it's like, I think it's like a month or so.
Okay.
You remember the date?
So-
Put on there? She, I'm sorry, I'm asking my caregiver because she writes down the dates and stuff for me. But it's on the calendar. It's like in a month, I believe. Let me look on the calendar. It's okay. Yeah.
For October.
Okay,
Oh, for October.
I was just asking out of curiosity.
Yes, October. Yes, sir.
So, I'm ready to issue rulings on these cases.
Okay.
Okay,
Your
and so,
Honor, Your Honor,
yes, Mr. Johnson? Yes,
If I may-
Mr. Johnson?
if I may, I'm a little tired here. I did forget to mention, yes, I did wreck his truck.
Just a second. I'll get to that in a minute. All right,
All right.
Nation as well.
with that?
For both. For the truck, he had to
Yes,
send.
the truck.
this
Okay,
to the-
let me get to the truck.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So what's here now is not the truck. What do you want to say something, ma'am?
Yes, there was, I'd like to say something in behalf of Tyrese being a caregiver. I don't know about him being a caregiver.
Okay, so hang on, ma'am, just a second. The only thing I want to know is if you have any information about what's alleged to have been going on with these folks.
Well, I
And if
don't
it's,
know.
and if you got it from him, that's one thing.
No,
If you
no,
witness
this is
things,
all me, has nothing to do with any of this going on, what I observed.
okay,
The reason why on number 2, we go to number 2, is that's the only place for the laundry facility.
okay, so hang on just a second,
No,
ma'am, just a second. If you're going to testify, you need to be sworn in. Could you
Oh,
raise your right hand?
Yes, sir.
You swear and affirm the information and testimony you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, for him being on floor 2, these gentlemen know that's the only floor. Number 2, number 3 is the laundry facility.
Okay,
So when I'm not there taking care of laundry or whatever, between 4 and 9 or on, he goes and does the laundry. So that's the reason why he's on 2nd floor. Gentlemen. Number 2, he's highly allergic to cats. He does not have cat food. He would not put cat food into somebody's car to kill somebody's cat, which was mentioned. He carries around an EpiPen because he's highly allergic to cats. And the other stuff, I witnessed a couple hostilities between the gentleman there when I would come into work.
which gentleman?
The one in the purple and tie, I do believe he cut his hair or something. He usually has it up, pointed up in the
Okay.
air. Or whatever.
Is he the
and-
one who went to the casino?
No, this was in the last couple days, few days. It's all tied back and cleaned up. He looks
Okay.
very nice and handsome. Anyway, I was coming in and Tyree was talking to me and he turned around and snapped at Tyree and verbally assaulted him. And I said, "Oh wow, we're angry and bitter." He
So I don't
said,
even know who
"No."
you're talking about, ma'am. Which one are you talking about?
The gentleman in the
Terrence
purple
Allen.
shirt.
Yeah, the one with the tie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
And he says, "Oh, I just don't like people being in my," and he was cussing, he was raising a voice at me. It wasn't really towards me, but it was towards him. So I witnessed a couple little hostility things and a little animosity. And the gentleman in the blue, I've seen him outside. He does pack a knife. I've seen it. When I went to his car one evening and another time since then. So he does pack a knife. I'm sure it's for protection for out there. I mean, everybody carries a knife or a weapon of whatever choice, but I feel that maybe that was a threat towards him. Even though he probably didn't mean it as a threat, it was still a threat because of the animosity going on between these people in the building. Secondly, about the hacking, yes. I've had to take my tablet and my phone in and have Motorola and Verizon took them 2 days. Somebody in his apartment, in his room, has hacked my phone and my tablet when I go to put my hours in for my work. I work for Consumer Direct Network as a caregiver. And it took them 2 days to resolve it so I can have my phone and stuff. And then I went back to his
do you have
home.
any idea who did that?
No, is somebody there that is hacking, and that's what he said, turn off all your Wi-Fi before you go in and everything. I do that and somebody would turn the Wi-Fi back on just 2 days ago. I was there and they hacked into my stuff again. And I had to go to Verizon again. And they said somebody in that building is a hacker and hacking into your equipment.
Okay, you can go be seated there, ma'am.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
No, Mr. Allen, I've heard enough, okay?
Okay.
Let me give a ruling here, and then if you want to respond following my ruling, you can,
Sure.
okay? So what's in front of me, I've heard a lot of things about a lot of things, but what's in front of me are 4 petitions for anti-harassment. You know, anytime anyone's a petitioner or a plaintiff in any sort of lawsuit, whether it's of this sort or small claims, which apparently is coming down the pike, yeah, they have a responsibility. They have to show by a preponderance of the evidence that it's more likely than not that the action actually took place. In this case, frankly, Mr. Fields, I don't find that burden has been met. And so I'm not going to enter orders against any of these folks. Okay, so that doesn't address, if someone's hacking you, ma'am, I don't, yes, you should do something about it, but I certainly can't tell who did that. And it doesn't sound like you have any idea who that did either. Mr. Fields, if any of these folks owe you money, you can certainly pursue that in terms of small claims. And apparently you're doing that. That's not going to be resolved now in front of this case. That's in front of, and I'm not sure when it is. I might be on the bench when those things come before the court on small claims, but that'll be handled there. This isn't the place to determine who owes who what. But with regard to, I mean, you live in the same place, you're going to run into each other. And apparently, at one point you were able to get along where you were given rides to casinos and so forth. That doesn't look like that's the case anymore. But you're going to run into each other. That's just the way that is. Having said all that, I'm not going to enter orders today. For you folk, you 4, Mr. Allen, Johnson, Schwenning, and Klingberg, you guys need to, I would suggest, be on your best behavior out there now. You know that Mr. Fields doesn't want anything to do with you folks at this point. So don't acknowledge him, don't engage him, don't do anything that could be misinterpreted by anybody to terms of harassment, because if this keeps up and he comes back, the result might be different next time if he can show that this is a pattern that continues. And I see you nodding, Mr. Allen. I hope you agree and understand that. And I hope everybody else does too. But that's what I'm going to do here for today.
Yes, sir.
And you can get the denial orders will be filed, and folks can get those off the Thurston County District Court website.
Awesome.
And you
Thank
folks
you.
are free to leave the Zoom call. Mr. Fields, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm taking a copy of the camera, and he didn't see the police report, so I'm gonna get it. So he walks around the knife every single day, and they don't do anything about it. I'm gonna protect myself. Those go in there, and then he's going this one. No.
Just keep records and keep calling the police, and then
That's what she told me. It's called the police again.
keep calling the police, and then that will be record enough for the judge.
Apparently that's not enough.
Everything has to be documented.
No, this one, that's that one. Joshua's. That's it. Thank you.
Is this theirs or yours?
It's mine. It was the side of the thing.
So I'm gonna put this like this,
Yes, ma'am.
and then
Okay.
fix that.
And these go together.
All right, Mr. Crow, can I ask you if you're appearing for the petitioners, or do you expect them to be here?
No, Your Honor, I'm appearing on behalf of the respondents who are both here.
I meant to say that. To say respondent. And now I do see that Mr. Bailey and Mr. Johnstone are present. Okay.
That's
good.
right.
Okay. And then I'm looking for either Mr. Clark or someone on his behalf. Yeah, the clerk's checking around to make sure that the petitioner didn't accidentally log into a different. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. I think we have everybody present now. Yes, it looks that way. All right, we're here for the matter of Jason Clark versus David Johnstone and Robert Bailey. These are cases 24-197 and 198. It looks like Mr. Clark is present, Mr. Johnstone is present, Mr. Bailey is present. Both respondents are present with counsel Mr. Crow. All right, so we'll commence the hearing now that I've verified everybody's here and we are on the record and streaming. So this is Mr. Clark's petition for anti-harassment order against respondents Johnstone and Bailey. The parties have all filed various pleadings, including declarations and other exhibits, which I have read and am familiar with. So the way I typically do these hearings, and will do so in this hearing, unless anyone has objection, which I'll address, is most contested issues are decided on the pleadings, on the declarations. It's generally speaking not necessary to take any testimony at a hearing like this when such declarations have been filed by the parties in advance. What I typically do is give each party, starting with the petitioner, the chance to address the court in the form of making arguments and drawing my attention to various exhibits and declarations in the process. If there's any supplementing of the record that needs to be done, for example, exhibits that weren't filed prior to the hearing today, it's probably possible to file those today if they're of a limited nature, not extensive. After I've heard from the petitioner, then the respondent would get to do the same thing. In this case, be through counsel, Mr. Crow. In a hearing like this, typically there is not cross-examination of each other as there would be in other types of hearings. So after then I've heard from both parties, I'll make a decision. I'll let you know what the decision is, and I'll let you know the reasons for the decision. All right, so let me start with you, Mr. Clark. Does that sound like an acceptable procedure to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Crow, on behalf of the respondents. If you're muted over there.
You think after 3 years of Zoom court, I know better. That sounds completely reasonable.
Okay, all right, we'll start that way then. And I will hear both cases at the same time. However, I will make a decision in each case so that the decision in Mr. Johnstone's case doesn't necessarily control the decision in Mr. Bailey's case and vice versa. But it's just, I think, more convenient to hear it all at the same time since all the evidence appears to be tied together. So, all right, Mr. Clark, you want to go ahead and start then?
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up my declaration. I don't really know how to start. I guess I'll just refer to my declaration. You know, we bought a home and didn't realize that this home was already embroiled in some sort of legal battle about the land that it was built on. And I felt like since we moved in, there's always been an issue with that. We had a tree in our backyard that I wanted to get removed and had reached out to the board just to ask if there was anything that I should be knowing about. It was in our yard. That wasn't an issue. Mr. Johnstone had mentioned because it's visible from the community, it could be considered a community tree. So I began working with the city of Yelm just for the accurate process to remove the tree on my property. Shifting into that next process, trying to landscape our yard, we had some professionals come out and test the soil. And, you know, there were some things that we needed to do. I had reached out to discuss with the Johnstones specifically about trimming the tree, had an arborist come and look at the tree and see what would be reasonable and what was legal. They had then trimmed the tree, left the branches in our yard. I did ask a couple questions specifically about, you know, not knowing if they were interested in the tree, if they were willing to remove it, that I would be willing to purchase whatever tree they wanted to replace it with, just because of the needles and the soil issue. I think, Your Honor, looking at the declarations from Mr. Johnstone, you can see from the attachments that all of my communication had been professional and polite. I think we realized at the moment that we had arborists come to the house to remove our tree, and then some of the branches overhanging our property. I really realized just how violent and aggressive Mr. Johnstone was, specifically the way that he was communicating with the contractors. You know, he had called me a nigger, called the contractor a white trash snaggletooth piece of shit, you know, and was just yelling and being super aggressive in a situation that felt super uncomfortable. We actually had paid the contractor to remove more of the tree on our side, which we didn't get to finish, just based off of that interaction. It's pretty scary. In May, I had a contractor come back to my house. And at that point, you know, I was just a little apprehensive and nervous about the situation. After that first incident, Mr. Johnstone had came to my house and was talking about what was, you know, transpiring, and basically said, hey, as the HOA president, I shouldn't be communicating like this. But that guy, he really was a white trash snaggletooth piece of shit, right? And I just felt like at that point, you know, I was kind of on guard about him. I was really nervous about continuing the landscaping in my yard. As I had, you know, proceeded to do the landscaping, I feel like that land had just been such an issue. There were so many people who were paying attention to what we were doing. Obviously, everything that we did, you know, we contacted the city or we had permits to do so. At this point in time, you know, is when Mr. Bailey and Mr. Johnstone came to my house, being super aggressive, you know, once again, using the N-word. And, you know, when coming on my property, was like no stopping them. And I really felt like I was going to be jumped after getting, you know, grabbed by Mr. Bailey and, you know, Mr. Johnstone. I put my arm up and, you know, moved Mr. Bailey out of the way. They called the police on me. I think just being, you know, a black man and young, I was terrified, right? Like I didn't know what to think. I have the police called on me. Somebody came to my house, assaulted me, called me a racial term. I didn't really know what to do. I called my wife and asked her if she could come back, obviously, because she's an attorney. When the police came, Mr. Johnstone's behavior, even with the police, was super escalated. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at those videos from that interaction, but you know, he was yelling and swearing at the police even. I think at that moment, I just, you know, started feeling scared and apprehensive, one, about living there, two, about having a backyard that's connected to them. I did notice that Mr. Johnstone immediately went to the house of the person who they had write a declaration later in this process and was pacing around his yard and, pointing at the house. And every time I drive by their house, they'll pull their phones out and take videos of me, or if I'm driving down the street. I seen in their declaration that they said that, I drive by their house and there's two entrances to our subdivision. The one that's nearest my house, unfortunately, passes by theirs, and that's where I check my mail because it's one house away from both of their houses. I really feel like I'm being ostracized in my community, and after being called, I don't really know how else to feel. I don't feel safe with my family. They've installed a point, tilt, and zoom camera on their backyard, and I seen in Miss Johnstone's declaration that she said I was taking pictures of their house, and I wasn't. There's times where I'm mowing the backyard in my house, and I look up and she's watching me. The PTZ camera, I took a picture because I can see the lens and it's tracking me as I'm moving through my yard. It's pointed directly at my back door, and when I come out, it tracks me. I haven't used my backyard since I realized that camera was there, and the landscaping that we did, we haven't been able to maintain because there's just a feeling of uneasiness around this situation. There's another camera installed that points directly at my house. It feels like I'm being surveilled in my backyard. And given the situation of somebody who would assault me, use a racial term, and consistently do things to, make it seem like I'm doing something wrong just by buying a home in my community, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I travel a lot for work. Having done work as a consultant, I own 3 businesses and previously a racial equity and inclusion council member for Thurston County. I realized that there are oftentimes in smaller rural areas issues of, race and equality. And I feel like this is an example of that situation playing out, Your Honor. And I don't engage them. I haven't engaged them. I don't go to their house. I've never been on Mr. Johnstone's property. I've never been on Mr. Bailey's property besides taking my daughter trick-or-treating. And I think that's what normal people, fathers, families do. And, I'm not stirring up issues with them. There was a piece of her declaration, Mrs. Johnstone's, where she said I screeched my tires. And Your Honor, I have a project car that I built, and it's tuned, and it may sound like something else, but I've never driven that car through a neighborhood more than 15 miles per hour. And the way that this land,
Mr. Clark, can I interrupt you for just a second? Your video and audio froze there for about 10 seconds. So if you could kind of rewind your comments there and repeat what you meant the last 10 seconds or so.
I feel like part of the situation has nothing to do with what they're sharing about me and more of the fight for this land prior to us moving in. The HOA led by Mr. Johnstone had a lawsuit for this plot of land that he shared with me they were going to have as their backyards. Talking to the developer after that, realizing that there were several lawsuits back and forth fighting over this land, which when we came into this home, it was obvious that, there was already some tension about these 3 houses being developed. I just, basically was sharing, traveling as a business owner, I worry about my family when I'm not there. If somebody will come to my home on my property, put their hands on me and use, negative racial terms against me, I don't know what to think about my family safety while I'm not there. I just want to live peacefully in my home, right? I don't bother anybody. I'm not harassing people in my community. There was a contractor that we were working with who had shared, the Baileys had contacted him, and, there was a lawsuit put on me that was, dismissed because nothing had happened. This contractor had taken someone's trailer and left it in my yard for 2 weeks. And when they came, I asked them to move to the edge of my property. And there was a conflict between the person who they had taken the trailer from and me locking the gate in my backyard. So getting to the bottom of that situation, that case was dismissed. There wasn't an assault. I feel like as a person who hired a contractor, I was in the middle of a situation that I didn't even understand was happening. I guess the thing that I would just say is, Your Honor, I feel like I'm being monitored and it doesn't feel welcoming. I feel like I'm being bullied by my HOA, and, we pay dues. We do everything we're supposed to. I mean, even paying dues for the HOA is paying for the attorney in this case. So it's almost like we're paying for this attorney as well. So I just feel not safe. I don't know what to think about my family when I'm not home. I think this is something that gives us that peaceful distance to where they know I'm not going to do anything to them. And I know that my family will be okay if they come back and repeat this behavior.
And Mr. Clark, I do note that Ms. Hoy is present with us as well. And Ms. Hoy has also filed a declaration that's part of the record in this case. Did you feel like I needed to hear from her as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and Ms. Hoy, I have your written declaration here filed in this case, but before you say anything more that would become part of the record in this case, I'm going to have to swear you in. So can you raise your right hand, please? And do you swear that the testimony that you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, and I saw you move, but I did not hear you. Can you give me a sound check? Okay, you're muted right now.
Sorry, yes.
There we go. Okay, very good. All right, and what would you like me to know, Ms. Hoy?
Just to echo Jason's testimony, this has been very stressful on our family. We did not know the tension behind purchasing a home, behind the land and the property. And when this occurred, it was very scary for me to not be there and to be called back, and to learn that he had been assaulted, that racial slurs were being used, and the folks that were assaulting him were part of our community and actually leading our community as HOA board members and president. So there is every day ongoing stress, for not only for myself when I'm by myself with my kids. I have a 7-year-old and 1.5-year-old. We don't go in the backyard as much anymore. It's barren. It's not the dream backyard that we were trying to create when we moved in. I'm trying to be empathetic and think about how they feel with regard to the tree, and that I know Jason did his best to reach out. But when the police came and when I spoke to them at great length, they actually noted that there was nothing illegal that we were doing. So what scares me the most is, even though we weren't doing anything in violation of the law, our safety was still in jeopardy. And my family member got hurt. He's still impacted by it, not only by the physical nature of it, but by the words. And so it's been very stressful, again, day in and day out, to think if we don't have any safeguards in place, what could happen not only to myself, but to my kids. I've already seen what happened to Jason, and it just worries me.
Thank you, Ms. Hoy. All right, and then Mr. Clark, before I move on to the respondents, is there any other witnesses or any other evidence that you wanted to present that hasn't been presented up to now?
In this original case, there were several people who I have no idea I just hired as contractors who gave witness statements to the police, and this is why Mr. Bailey was charged.
Yeah, those statements from some of those people are contained in the exhibits that were filed.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Crow, on behalf of the respondents.
Your Honor, if we could start with David Johnstone, please.
Sure. Would you like me to swear him in?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Johnstone, could you unmute your microphone, raise your right hand, please? And do you swear the testimony that you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go right ahead.
Mr. Johnstone, you filed a declaration with the court in this case. Did you have a chance to review and read that before you signed it?
Yes, I did.
Could you give me a sound check real quick?
Can you hear me?
Could you move your speakers away from the microphone a little bit?
Is this better?
That's way better. Thank you. And was that declaration true and correct in all aspects?
Yes, it was.
What's your position with the Homeowners Association?
I am the HOA president.
And have you been involved in the Homeowners Association since Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy moved in?
I have, yes.
During that time, has the Homeowners Association taken any negative action whatsoever against Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy?
No.
Any fines?
No.
Liens?
No.
Threats?
No.
Demands?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You live in the association close to Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what is the proximity of your two properties?
They are adjoining each other. They're right next to each other.
There's a tree that Mr. Clark kept referring to as my tree, our tree on my property. Can you describe that tree to me?
It's a tree. It's pretty big in diameter. It's about 6 to 8 feet from my fence into my yard and extends about 100 feet up in the air.
And is this tree, at least where it meets the ground, fully on your property?
Yes, it is.
It's
not even close to his property.
Is there any question about whether that might be on somebody else's property?
No, not at all.
Mr. Clark referred to previous litigation. Can you tell me what happened there?
There's no previous litigation. We had one tract of land that was split into 3 parcels, and the developer who was developing the last final 3 homes in our neighborhood was we were having trouble getting them to work with us to make sure that the lots were split up correctly, that the correct lot numbers were used, that just things were done correctly as far as the admin side. And they were just very difficult to work with. We ended up having to file an appeal with the city of Yelm saying, hey, they won't work with us. We can't get this approved. We're not sure what to do. But that's really all it consisted of.
And did that dispute in any way have anything to do with Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy?
No, not at all.
Did it change the way that you behaved towards Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy, either in your individual capacity or as someone acting on behalf of the homeowners association?
Absolutely not. And there's two other homes that I've had no interaction with that was part of this tract.
And there's no question at all that this tree is your tree on your property?
No question.
Tell me about your interactions with Mr. Clark prior to the incident on, or the dispute arising about the tree.
The only other interaction before this was shortly after they moved in, they had made a post on Facebook about a inappropriate piece of graffiti that was on the fence. There was a penis that was drawn on it. It was done, I don't know, 4 or 5 years before they had even, that house was even built. And they had made a post about it on our community Facebook page. We hadn't had a chance to meet him yet. So my wife and I brought a bottle of sparkling cider and some cookies or something, went over there and reassured them that they kind of insinuated in their post that this had been done recently and it was targeted towards them. So we wanted to go over there and say, hey, you know, this is old. No one in this neighborhood is like that, and just kind of give them a welcome.
After that, did Mr. Clark try to make contact with you with regards to HOA issues?
No, the next time he had contacted me was when he wanted to talk about cutting the branches on my tree.
Did he make contact with you through Facebook?
Yes, he did.
Did he use other social media?
No, just Facebook.
Did you ask him to go through the proper channels to contact the board?
Okay, I need to back up. Actually, just prior to this, it was a couple weeks before that, a tree that was in their front yard had fallen over. It was, I don't know, 12, 14 feet tall with the roots. Mr. Clark had taken that tree and set it on the sidewalk, and it was kind of over in the road on the sidewalk and then on the HOA park property. We had reached out to Mr. Clark and said, hey, just so you know, parking strips are the responsibility of the individual lot owners, and that's on the road and HOA property. Can you grab the tree? We don't care if you get rid of it, what you do with it, just throw it on your driveway, just get it off the road. So just before he had contacted me about cutting my tree, that had happened. And he had tried to reach out to us previously about that tree and what to do with it on Facebook. So when he reached out to me on Facebook about cutting my tree, I was assuming it was another HOA issue.
And did he persist in contacting you, not using the proper channels?
Yes, he did.
What was your, what did you have to do to make that stop?
I blocked him on Facebook.
Tell me about the when he first approached you with regards to your tree on your property.
So he reached out to me and said that he wanted to limb my tree and that he wanted to do it in a manner that I had already done on my side. Some of the branches had been cut up further on my side of the fence, although I think it was done naturally, but it had been done prior to when I had purchased my house in 2017. So there was a lot more trees, and I think it was a weather-facing tree, but I hadn't cut the branches. But he had contacted me and said that he wanted to limb my tree, and he also had said that he wanted to get rid of the tree altogether and that he would pay for it. I had said that I was not comfortable getting rid of the tree, that I would cut some of the branches back. I proposed that cutting the branches 20 feet high. I went up in the tree with some surveyor's tape, took pictures of the tree, said, I think cutting it up that high is not going to endanger the tree or do anything to it. And if he's okay with that, I'll go up, I'll cut the branches, and, we'll move on. But that I thought cutting it any higher, didn't intrude on his property at all and could risk the tree.
Okay. Did he accept that offer for you to cut him back to about 20 feet?
He didn't respond.
And then did you just go ahead and cut him back anyway to the 20 feet?
Yes, I did. Primarily because there was branches hanging on.
Did you or did you not?
Yes, I did.
And what was his response when you cut the tree back at that point?
A couple of days later, he sent an email to both my wife and I, and he seemed to be upset that I had cut branches. And inadvertently, a branch had fallen in his yard that I couldn't grab. And at that point, we responded to Mr. Clark and said, with his permission, we'll come over to his property and grab the branch, but we were uncomfortable at the time going onto his property.
At some point later on, did you come home to find a contractor in your tree?
Yes, I did.
Did Mr. Clark hire that contractor?
Yes, he did.
How did they get over the fence to get to the tree?
He took an excavator and set in the bucket, and they raised it up over the fence, and then he climbed up my tree.
What was he doing on your tree?
He was limbing the tree. And
on all
360
sides?
degrees all the way around.
And did Mr. Clark or the contractor give you any justification for why they thought it was okay to come onto your property and completely limb your tree?
No.
Did they tell you it was because you don't control the airspace over your land?
They did say that, yes.
And what was the contractor's response when you told him to leave your property?
The worker who was in the tree with the chainsaw started threatening to F me up and became very violent.
Did he ask you to step out into the road to settle it?
Yes, he did.
And you did not take him up on that offer, did you?
No, I did not.
Did he at some point leave?
Yes. I was insistent that he get off my property and leave, and he eventually did.
After he left, did Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy build a gate in their fence that borders on Cullens Road?
Yes, they did.
Describe the gate to me.
It's an outward-facing gate with 2 doors. It's pretty long and wide. It goes all the way over the sidewalk and extends almost out into the street and blocks the entire right-of-way.
Does Mr. Clark own the sidewalk outside of his gate? Or
No, he does not.
But as you testified, his gate does block the road.
Yes.
On May 8th, did you find another contractor on your property?
Yes, I did.
Was the contractor up in the tree?
He, at this point, they had brought in a boom truck, and he was in a boom extended over my property, cutting branches again and 360 degrees up my tree.
And was there a confrontation with this contractor?
No.
Okay. What did you do when you discovered the contractor in the boom completely limbing your tree?
Between the boom truck and the worker trespassing again and cutting my branches and the gate, I wanted to document this. So I called up a fellow board member, Robert Bailey, and asked him if he would come out with me, walk down Cullen Street, and we would just take some pictures and document this situation.
Was it your intent at that point to contact Mr. Clark?
Absolutely not, no.
And what happened when you got to the gate?
Shortly after we got to the gate, well, before we got to the front of the gate, we took a couple pictures of it being open. When we got to the front of the gate, again, we took a couple more. Almost immediately, within 15, 20 seconds, Clark made a beeline over to us. As we're standing on the sidewalk, he took his hand out like this, shoved Robert down, shut his gate. Nothing was said, and it was over.
Did Mr. Clark say anything?
No, not that I recall.
Didn't yell at you to get off his property or anything like that?
No.
Were you on his property?
Absolutely not. It would be...
Where were you standing when this happened?
On the sidewalk.
Did he put his hands on you?
No.
And did you put your hands on him at all?
No.
During any confrontation, any discussion, any communication whatsoever that you have ever had with either Ms. Hoy or Mr. Clark, have you ever used any racial slurs at all?
Absolutely not.
After Mr. Clark shoved Mr. Bailey into the street and closed his gate, what happened?
He briefly, as he was grabbing the gate and walking to shut it, got in my face and then started closing it. It was a very quick interaction.
What happened after that?
Shortly after that, Robert Bailey called the police and we stood outside his gate and waited for them to arrive.
Did the contractor leave during this time?
No, he did not.
When did the contractor leave?
I don't recall exactly when, but it was hours later.
And what happened when the police arrived?
They came and briefly interviewed Robert and I about what had transpired. I had a camera in my backyard, and I was very interested to see if it had somehow caught this assault. So we kind of cut it short and went back to my house to see if it caught the assault, and then they went to interview Jason Clark afterwards.
Were you charged with anything in connection with this?
No.
This altercation? Okay. Mr. Clark talked about cameras that you have in your backyard. Can you describe those to me?
I previously had one camera under my porch. Since all of this has happened, I have invested in some better cameras and have installed an additional camera that points in another direction.
What direction?
What direction?
You said you installed a different camera that points in another direction. What direction does that camera point?
So I just have two cameras pointing southeast and southwest.
Do they point towards Mr. Clark's house?
They point and capture my fence line. My main concern is...
Do your cameras track Mr. Clark if he goes into his backyard?
Absolutely not. I do not have pan tilt zoom cameras.
Are the cameras static in sort of the direction that they point?
Yes.
Why have you put those cameras up?
Due to these allegations and trespassing on my property, coming over my fence, I do not feel safe. And I feel that I need to be able to protect myself against false accusations.
What's it been like since this incident for you and your family?
It's been horrible.
How so?
Just a significant amount of emotional stress with these false accusations. It's just the fear and anxiety that I have that Clark and Hoy can say that anything, and that the extent to which they will lie is
how have they lied?
Just almost everything that they have testified to.
Name one thing.
The racial slurs, the assault, the claiming that we have weaponized the HOA, and there's nothing to substantiate any of that. And in fact, if you look at the correspondence, it is 100% the opposite.
I'm going to go back really quickly in your testimony just a bit and talk about when the police officer was there. Have you had a chance to review the police officer's body cam footage from his interview of Mr. Clark?
I have, yes.
Does Mr. Clark claim in that you used racial slurs?
Yes, and in fact, he said he had it on
video. Does he claim that he had video?
Yes.
What happened when the officer asked to see the video?
He didn't produce it.
Has he ever produced this video that he says that he has?
No.
Has Mr. Clark driven by your house since this incident?
Yes, he has.
How so? And I don't mean how so. So let me rephrase that question. Was it just like sort of normal driving by to get from point A to point B? Or was he slowing down and staring? Or what was the context of him driving by?
He hasn't stared at me, but he definitely has driven by, revved his engine. He has squealed his tires. And in his body cam footage, he testified that he does not even go by our house, but yet he does go by our house a lot. He has walked by our house, does not appear to be fearful of me at all.
Okay. That's all for now from Mr. Johnstone, Your Honor. I think just to sort of keep everything in order with regards to these two cases, I'd like to hear from Amanda Johnstone next.
Okay. Right, and Ms. Johnstone, you have also filed a declaration in this case, but if you're going to give additional evidence, I'm going to swear you in first. All right, raise your right hand, please. And do you swear the testimony that you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Mr. Crow.
Ms. Johnstone, are you married to David Johnstone?
Yes, I am.
You didn't directly witness anything that happened on May 8th, did you?
No, I did not.
What I want to talk to you about is what it has been like since the May 8th, or yeah, what has it been like since the May 8th incident with regards to living next door to Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy?
Tense would be an understatement. All of our rear facing windows face their backyard. All of those blinds have to be closed all the time.
Why is that?
Because since May 8th, both Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy and their families spent a great deal of time in their backyard. And at times, Mr. Clark would be almost glaring into our house. So we kept our windows closed just to avoid any interaction whatsoever with either of them.
Have you felt comfortable and safe using your backyard?
No, we have not. As a matter of fact, since David isn't allowed to be in our backyard, I've been the one to have to mow the lawn in the backyard. And each time I did so, I had extreme anxiety just being back there.
I forgot to ask David Johnstone this question. The tree that's in question here, what's the condition of that tree now? How much damage was done to it?
It's limbed pretty high up. We haven't had an arborist out to evaluate the health of the tree, but I do know that they took all of the roots out their side. So we are nervous that if a windstorm happens, the tree is going to blow over onto our house now that it's unrooted 50%.
So back to, actually, I don't believe I have any further questions for you.
Thank you.
And then next, Mr.
Yeah, Your Honor, at this point, I'd like to hear from Mr. Bailey.
All right, Mr. Bailey. All right, and again, and Mr. Bailey, you are one of the respondents in this matter. You have also filed the declaration, but again, if you're going to testify to additional facts, I'm going to need to swear you in. So raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony that you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Crow.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bailey. You have a position on the Homeowners Association Board as well, correct?
Yes, I do.
What's your position?
Vice President.
Prior to the May 8th incident that we've been talking about with the tree, had you had any communication with Ms. Hoy and Mr. Clark?
Halloween last year, Mr. Clark, like he said, came trick-or-treating, and I shook his hand, welcome to the neighborhood, gave his daughter some candy like you do on Halloween. Again, like Mr. Johnstone had mentioned, the tree that was in the parking area had fell down due to the previous contractor's negligence. So when he asked, what to do with it, we told him, hey, just need to, like you said, get it out of the road. And up till that was about the only time I've ever had communication with the Clarks and the Hoys.
During the entire time that Mr. Clark and Ms. Hoy have lived in the association, has the board or anybody on behalf of the association take any sort of negative action against them?
No, sir.
This tree that fell down in their yard, were they fined for that?
No.
What happened? Who replaced the tree?
Mr. Clark said he had a tree that he would like to take out and put in there.
No, the tree that fell down in their yard that you asked them to move onto the driveway.
Yeah.
What happened? What was the result of that?
I think he chopped it up and threw it away.
Okay. Did anybody put a new tree in?
Yeah, like I said, Mr. Clark said he had a tree that he would like to put in, and yeah, no problem.
Did the board require him to put in a new tree?
We do. We have a list of street trees because the city of Yelm requires street trees.
But you didn't have to threaten him or fine him or threaten a lien or anything to get the tree replaced?
No, sir.
Did you have any other communication with Ms. Hoy or Mr. Clark after that, but before obviously May 8th?
No, sir.
So tell me what happened on May the
8th. I was working from home. I got a call from Mr. Johnstone and said, hey, I got people in my back or in my tree again. Can you come and take some pictures and, be the level cool-headed guy I usually am? So I met him out front. We walked to the corner. I snapped a picture of the gate, which was blocking the sidewalk access. So then we proceeded to the open gate on the sidewalk. I tried to snap a picture of the contractor's work truck to maybe get a name of the company. And I noticed Mr. Clark heading over towards us. And all he kept saying was, "Get off my property, get off my property, get off my property." I looked down, I'm like, I'm on the sidewalk. And next thing I know, he's in my face. He's shoving me back with one hand and grabbed the gate with the other. And I fell backwards, rolled down off the sidewalk into the road, almost got hit by a vehicle, stood up. And within that short amount of time, he had pulled the gate closed and had, I would say, less than 10 seconds is what that entire interaction took. So yeah, I was sore. My back was all scratched up. My shirt was torn from falling down.
We have filed a declaration, your declaration with the court. Does that declaration accurately, or is it true and accurate?
Yes.
And you had a chance to review it prior to signing and having it filed?
Yes, sir.
And that declaration contains photos of your injuries. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And were all those caused by Mr. Clark shoving you into the road?
Yes, sir.
What happened after that?
Like I said, I called the cops. Told them I had been assaulted. They arrived shortly thereafter and proceeded to shortly question myself and Mr. Johnstone. Like I said, I worked from home, so I was like, hey, I need to get back to meetings. So I walked home, just, obviously right around the corner. They continued their investigation for, I would say, another hour and a half, talking to Mr. Clark, Mrs. Hoy, and I believe the people working in their backyard. And then they came, and I believe they talked to Mr. Johnstone first, and then came to me and explained to me that due to their investigation and my past actions, supposed actions, that I would be charged with assault and criminal trespassing.
What past actions are they talking about?
Mr. Clark had said that I had been over there before calling him an N-word, and that I'd been on his property before. I still, to this day, have never stepped a foot on his property.
With regards to the other part of your statement, during any communication that you have ever had with Ms. Hoy and with or with Mr. Clark, or with both of them, have you ever used any racial slur whatsoever, the N-word or any other similar word?
Absolutely not.
Is that a word that was even in your lexicon?
No, I'm sorry. No. I have a blended family with a sister and all that. So yeah, no.
Okay. Tell me what it's been like since May the 8th.
It's terrible. Yelma's not that big of a town. I fear for, if my wife and I go shopping, at Safeway or Walmart or wherever, it's, if I see Mr. Clark, or if I get told, hey, Mr. Clark is here, I'm going to have to leave. If I'm eating dinner with my family somewhere and someone shows up, I have to leave. My wife sits on our front porch quite often, and cars will drive by and slow down for nothing, and then speed up and go down to the cul-de-sac where Mr. Clark and Miss Hoy live. That's kind of unnerving. He's concerned about his family. I'm concerned about mine as well.
Have you noticed Mr. Clark using the street in front of your house?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
And in what context?
The mailbox is on our street. I agree with him on that. But he rides his bike down it, walks his kids down it, drives his car down it, drives his truck down it. So he's certainly not scared, like he said in the video.
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are we going to do closings, Your Honor? Or what's the
yes,
procedure
but
from this
before,
point?
I was going to verify then that that's all the people who've come to testify or give any evidence, because if that's the case, then I'll let Mr. Clark sum it up first, and then I'll let you sum it up after that.
The only other testimony that we want to have introduced is the declaration of Timothy Collins, who lives across the street. That's filed with the court, but he's not here today to actually testify.
Yes, all right, and that declaration is part of the record. All right, then, Mr. Clark, I'll turn back over to you, and this is going to be your opportunity to, I use the term sum it up, kind of, if you want, like a closing argument and make your final comments.
Your Honor, I'm not asking for a protection order to not be able to use the street the mailbox is on at my home. We live in a small community, so the part of the community that we live in is actually the nicer side, and there's a very older side that, there's no sidewalks on. So yeah, I am an active father. That's my first role and foremost important. I do walk my children around. That part of being afraid of people, I don't want people coming to my property harassing me or putting their hands on me or calling me a nick. But at the end of the day, you know what? I paid to live in a home, so I am going to use that community, right? There's an exit from my home right there. So I'm going to drive down a street. I'm going to check the mail that's on the same street, very close to their house. I have no choice. Earlier he said that the tree in his backyard wasn't an HOA issue, but to my point of, feeling the feeling of being bullied by the HOA is paying for this attorney. So is the tree now an HOA issue? I guess one of the things that I'd like to say too is our backyard sits about 8 feet lower than the Johnstone's backyard. So there's no way that I could peer into their house. There's a 6-foot fence on an easement, right? That's a slope above. So not only are we significantly lower, but there's a fence, right? That sits there. So I couldn't technically peer into their window, right? Now the camera sits above that fence line, so you can see that. But I just feel like in this situation, Your Honor, I really don't have anything else to say to sum it up. There were witnesses who were present that shared what happened. I haven't been on their property prior to the situation that happened. You didn't hear Mr. Johnstone, Mr. Bailey, or Mrs. Bailey say Mr. Clark was harassing us or Mr. Clark. I haven't done anything, Your Honor, besides buy a home and try to take care of my family. It's unfortunate this incident happened, but yeah, I do feel unsafe. I do feel like this is a way of using the system, right, to be pushed out. And I don't understand why that's happening. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not going to do anything wrong. I want to effectively contribute to the community. Like I shared, I was the chair for the Thurston County Council of Racial Equity and Inclusion. Like, I want to give back to my community. I want to be able to support. And I think at this point, this is one of those matters that have just made us feel extremely uncomfortable. I mean, we're at a point now of looking at buying new homes and renting this one out just because of the situation. The question asked of Mr. Johnstone is that the camera point, I took a picture because of that, and I wish I would have submitted it to this or maybe have the opportunity to do that. The reason why I did is because they do have a PTZ camera in their backyard, because I took a picture because as I was moving, I could see the lens of the camera following me. The second camera that was installed points directly at our home. So, the feeling of not being able to use your backyard is definitely there. Visna had shared, the landscaping that we've done. I've committed to building my backyard, which was just weed bearing in a hill prior to us moving in. And I've invested $75,000 into landscaping, and it's weed bearing and unused now because it feels uncomfortable to go outside and have people looking out their windows watching you and then saying things like, we feel unsafe. I guess all I'm saying, Your Honor, is in this situation, there was a case that was initiated because they came to my house. There were witnesses who were present. I haven't done anything to them. I haven't disrupted them. And the times that they've said that I've drove down the street, I haven't stopped. I haven't engaged them. The times that I've played with my children out in the community, I haven't stopped or engaged them. If I've used the street on their house, I haven't stopped at their home to intimidate them. That's not what I do. But I don't want to live in fear. I also want to feel like my family can be safe and protected if I'm not there. I want to feel like if they come back to my home to do something like this, that I could pick up the phone and call the police and something would happen. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, and Mr. Crow, on behalf of the respondents.
On behalf of both of the respondents, Your Honor, this isn't about race. This has never been about race. This has nothing to do with race. This has everything to do with Mr. Clark believing that he's somehow entitled to come onto Mr. Johnstone's property and destroy a fully mature tree on Mr. Johnstone's property because it doesn't fit in with Mr. Clark's plans for his backyard. That's inappropriate. There's no indication anywhere throughout this that this has been about race. In their petition, or in Mr. Clark's petition, he states that he has a fear of harassment in the future by the Homeowners Association, but he's given us no evidence whatsoever that he's been harassed by the Homeowners Association. Nobody's ever fined him. Nobody's ever threatened him. Nobody's ever put a lien on his property. Nobody's ever done anything to him on behalf of the Homeowners Association. So this fear that somehow he's going to be targeted by the Homeowners Association is not rational, and it's not reasonable. They're complaining against Mr. Johnstone. And the reason that they're claiming that they need an anti-harassment order against Mr. Johnstone is that he got upset when he came home and found out that a contractor had been lifted up in a bucket, sent over his property line multiple feet so that he could climb onto a tree on the argument that somehow Mr. Johnstone has no right to the airspace above his property that was being occupied by that tree. They weren't just limbing it to keep the limbs off of their property, they were limbing it all the way around, and Mr. Johnstone had every right to be upset about that. Every right to be upset. One of the elements of an anti-harassment protection order is that there has to be no lawful purpose. But it is lawful to protect your property when something like that happens. It was also lawful for him to protect his property when Mr. Clark did it again with a new contractor, this time using a bucket lift. If you have to be lifted over somebody's property to reach a tree that is fully on their property, there's no dispute about the ownership of that tree, and nobody has a right to do that. Then when Mr. Johnstone and Mr. Bailey tried to document this, because obviously we're looking at some sort of timber trespass action or something along those lines, and there's an ongoing problem, they never went onto his property. They stood on the sidewalk in the gate that Mr. Clark built that now blocks the sidewalk. So as the testimony of Tim Cullens that's in the record says, now that children coming home from school have to walk all the way out into Cullens Road to get around this gate because it's frequently open. Cullens Road is a very busy road. It's the end of the bypass. I don't know if you're familiar with Yelm or not, but in terms of busy streets in Yelm, it's one of the busiest. So he's creating a danger. Mr. Clark and Mr. Bailey are there on the sidewalk, lawfully taking photos. Mr. Clark approaches and immediately shoves Mr. Bailey out into the street where he's injured. That's not the stuff of anti-harassment protection orders in favor of Mr. Clark. That's how you get anti-harassment protection orders favoring Mr. Johnstone and Mr. Bailey. There's no credible evidence anywhere that any racial slurs were used whatsoever. Both Mr. Johnstone and Mr. Bailey have been accused of using one particularly ugly word that I won't repeat here, but one that they have both said they never use. That's not a word that enters into a normal person's vocabulary. They didn't use it towards Mr. Clark. He claims that they did. He told the police officer that they did and that he has video of it, but then he's refused to produce that video. There's no evidence whatsoever that they did that. There's nothing even remotely credible that that had any reason behind this, when there's a perfectly obvious reason why there was a dispute going on over the tree. Mr. Clark was limbing it. That has nothing to do with the color of anybody's skin. Mr. Clark mentioned that he's continuing to use the road. He has every right to. Nobody wants to stop him from using the road. Nobody wants him to not be able to use the community amenities that are there. He has every right to use those, and he should be using them. And he's absolutely correct in that, he needs to go down there to the mailbox. But he did say that he was afraid to go on that road. And the actions that he's taken don't show that he's afraid of anything. And he shouldn't be. My clients pose no threat. There's no harassment that's gone on in the past. Wasn't even any contact at all between Mr. Bailey and Mr. Clark, except for one brief interaction at Halloween prior to the May 8th incident. There's no threat, there's no harassment, there's no grounds whatsoever for an anti-harassment protection order in this case. And we are asking the court in this case to do a realignment and grant a protection order in favor of Mr. Johnstone and Mr. Bailey.
All right, thank you, Mr. Crow. All right. Now I've heard today, and I reviewed in the record in the file, there's a substantial amount of evidence here that revolves around the various conflicts around the tree, the gate on the fence that goes over the sidewalk, apparently. And I don't believe it's necessary, and it wouldn't be appropriate for this court to attempt to resolve or, come to some kind of a pronouncement about who's right and who's wrong with regard to any of these property issues. I understand them and take them to be basically background and context information that tells me about the circumstances in which the parties find themselves. So whether, Mr. Clark is in the right or in the wrong about whether, limbing the tree is within his rights, I'm not making a decision on that. Similarly with the gate, any other aspect of your homeowners association, any of the rules and regulations that govern it, whether the communications that were used to express potential violations of the homeowners association rules, whether or not that was appropriate. Again, all of that is just background and context. What I've got to be concerned about is making a decision as to whether or not unlawful harassment occurred. And that I think I can do based on the evidence that was presented by the parties and presented earlier that's in the record in the form of declarations. So in this instance, with regard to both respondents, Mr. Bailey and Mr. Johnstone, I am not satisfied by a preponderance of the evidence that unlawful harassment occurred. Unlawful harassment is a knowing and willful course of conduct directed at a specific person that seriously alarms, annoys, harasses, is detrimental to that person, and serves no legitimate or lawful purpose. And the real, I think, key here is that it has to be a course of conduct. And I think the course of conduct in sort of the non-legally specific use is the entire relationship between the parties in their homeowners association, the incident with the tree, the building of the fence and the gate. But what I'm focused on is the incident on May 8th, which of course there's been substantial evidence developed about. That incident itself is not a course of conduct. It's a confrontation. You've all thoroughly described it. The police got involved. Obviously, Mr. Bailey was issued with a citation as a result of that. But this is an incident, not a course of conduct. So it's not really possible for me to find that unlawful harassment occurred without finding that a course of conduct occurred, with exceptions that aren't relevant here. So for those reasons, I cannot find by preponderance of the evidence that unlawful harassment occurred with regard to either Mr. Johnstone or Mr. Bailey. And for that reason, I'll have to deny Mr. Clark's petition for an anti-harassment order against both of them. Now, the parties have also, the respondents in this case have also pled a realignment and asked the court to examine the circumstances of the case to determine whether an anti-harassment order should be issued in favor of them against Mr. Clark. And similarly, I have to say no. The elements of the petition or the elements of harassment are not met against Mr. Clark either. Mr. Clark may have done something, just like Mr. Bailey, Mr. Johnstone may have done something in a specific incident, but none of it constitutes a course of conduct that meets the definition in RCW 7.105. So Mr. Clark is also not culpable for unlawful harassment for his actions or anything that he's said or done directly to Mr. Bailey or Mr. Johnstone. So in that regard, their petition for a realignment and an anti-harassment order against Mr. Clark is similarly denied. So in the end, the temporary orders that were issued previously when the petition was taken by the court in June, on June 17th, are now terminated and no orders will be issued. That'll be the ruling of the court.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, everybody, for your presentations and your professionalism. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the way you developed the record in this case ahead of time. So again, that's the ruling, and that will end the hearing for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.